Jake could feel the sweat dripping down his face as he trudged through the endless desert. The sun was scorching, but he had no choice but to push on. His supplies were running low, and the woman, Naira, was still unconscious after the crash. She had been tough when they first met, an alien warrior with a strong will and a sharp tongue. But now, she was lying weak and pale, just like any human would be in this brutal heat. It made Jake uneasy. He couldn't afford to lose her, not after everything they'd been through. Suddenly, Naira groaned, her eyes fluttering open. Her hand shot out instinctively, grasping Jake's arm with surprising strength. "Jake," she whispered, her voice raspy. "Naira, you're awake." "You're going to be fine," Jake said, trying to hide the panic in his voice. He wasn't so sure. The venomous snake bite on her leg was already turning her skin a deep purple, and the poison was spreading fast. "We need to get you help." "You can't die on me now," Jake muttered, more to himself than to her. He had never been the one to take charge in a crisis, but this time, he had no choice. He couldn't let her go, not after all they had been through. Naira tried to sit up, but her strength failed her. She slumped back against the rocky terrain, her breathing shallow. "It's no use, human," she said weakly, "you're too late." "Don't say that. I'll find something. I promise." Jake was already searching frantically around them for anything that could help. He found some strange-looking herbs that Naira had mentioned earlier, but they didn't seem to help much. The snake's venom was still working its way through her bloodstream. "I'm not dying on you, Naira." "Just hold on," he said, trying to sound confident even though he was starting to doubt himself. Naira's eyes narrowed, a smirk barely visible on her lips. "You humans always think you can save us." Jake blinked, surprised by her sudden shift in attitude. "What's that supposed to mean?" She let out a soft laugh, wincing in pain. "You think you're the one in control here? You think you can save me like some kind of knight in shining armor?" Jake clenched his fists, frustration mounting. "I'm not trying to save you because of some fantasy. I'm trying to save you because I don't want to lose you, all right?" She didn't answer at first, her body shaking as the venom continued to take its toll. "You really think you can do it?" she asked quietly, her gaze now softer. "Yeah, I do. I don't know how, but I'll figure it out." There was a long pause. Jake could hear the sound of her labored breathing, the crackling of the dry ground beneath him as he moved around. Time was slipping away, and with it, Naira's chances of survival. She looked up at him again, her face half hidden by the wild, unkempt strands of silver hair that framed her features. "You're foolish to think you can save me. You've seen the rest of my people. We're not so easy to tame." Jake shot her a grin. "Maybe not, but that doesn't mean I'm going to quit trying." As he worked quickly, his hands were trembling. He found another herb that Naira had mentioned earlier, but it was hard to tell if it would work. He crushed it between his fingers, the scent of it filling the air. He placed the paste over her wound, hoping for a miracle. "Do you think this will work?" Naira's voice was barely above a whisper. "I have no idea," Jake admitted. "But you're not giving up on me yet. Don't you dare." She gave him a faint, appreciative smile, but it quickly faded as another wave of pain swept over her. Her eyes fluttered closed. "You don't get it, do you? I'm not like you. I'm different." Jake paused, feeling a sudden rush of emotion. "I don't care what you are, Naira. I'm not leaving you behind." But Naira's body continued to grow weaker, the poison spreading faster than Jake could handle. She gasped for air, clutching at his shirt. "You're too late. I'm done." "No," Jake growled, "I won't let you die on me. Not like this." He pressed harder on the wound, desperate for any sign of improvement. He could hear the faintest pulse beneath his fingers, but it wasn't enough. Naira's body was fading, and Jake was running out of time. And then, just as the last of her breath was leaving her, Jake did something he never thought he'd do. He pulled her closer, pressing his lips to the side of her neck, where the venom had taken its most brutal toll. His mouth brushed against her skin, trying to draw out the poison. It was risky, foolish, and probably not going to work, but it was all he had left. Naira's eyes shot open. "What are you doing?" she gasped, her voice thick with confusion. "I'm saving you," Jake replied, his tone steady despite the chaos in his mind. The moment lingered between them, charged, tense, with a mix of danger and something else. Something neither of them had expected. "Will it work?" she asked, her voice softer now, almost trusting. Jake didn't answer. He couldn't. He had no idea. But he wasn't going to stop. Not now. Just as he pulled away, Naira's eyes went wide. "The venom, it's not gone," she whispered, a strange look on her face. Jake froze. "What does that mean?" "Naira, tell me." But Naira's words were cut off as her body trembled violently. Was it too late for her after all? Naughty question for the comment section. Do you think Jake's kiss really helped save Naira, or is it just the start of something even more dangerous? Jake could feel the sweat dripping down his face as he trudged through the endless desert. The sun was scorching, but he had no choice but to push on. His supplies were running low, and the woman, Naira, was still unconscious after the crash. She had been tough when they first met, an alien warrior with a strong will and a sharp tongue. But now, she was lying weak and pale, just like any human would be in this brutal heat. It made Jake uneasy. He couldn't afford to lose her, not after everything they'd been through. Suddenly, Naira groaned, her eyes fluttering open. Her hand shot out instinctively, grasping Jake's arm with surprising strength. "Jake," she whispered, her voice raspy. "Naira, you're awake." "You're going to be fine," Jake said, trying to hide the panic in his voice. He wasn't so sure. The venomous snake bite on her leg was already turning her skin a deep purple, and the poison was spreading fast. "We need to get you help." "You can't die on me now," Jake muttered, more to himself than to her. He had never been the one to take charge in a crisis, but this time, he had no choice. He couldn't let her go, not after all they had been through. Naira tried to sit up, but her strength failed her. She slumped back against the rocky terrain, her breathing shallow. "It's no use, human," she said weakly, "you're too late." "Don't say that." "I'll find something. I promise." Jake was already searching frantically around them for anything that could help. He found some strange-looking herbs that Naira had mentioned earlier, but they didn't seem to help much. The snake's venom was still working its way through her bloodstream. "I'm not dying on you, Naira." "Just hold on," he said, trying to sound confident even though he was starting to doubt himself. Naira's eyes narrowed, a smirk barely visible on her lips. "You humans always think you can save us." Jake blinked, surprised by her sudden shift in attitude. "What's that supposed to mean?" She let out a soft laugh, wincing in pain. "You think you're the one in control here? You think you can save me like some kind of knight in shining armor?" Jake clenched his fists, frustration mounting. "I'm not trying to save you because of some fantasy. I'm trying to save you because I don't want to lose you, all right?" She didn't answer at first, her body shaking as the venom continued to take its toll. "You really think you can do it?" she asked quietly, her gaze now softer. "Yeah, I do. I don't know how, but I'll figure it out." There was a long pause. Jake could hear the sound of her labored breathing, the crackling of the dry ground beneath him as he moved around. Time was slipping away, and with it, Naira's chances of survival. She looked up at him again, her face half hidden by the wild, unkempt strands of silver hair that framed her features. "You're foolish to think you can save me. You've seen the rest of my people. We're not so easy to tame." Jake shot her a grin. "Maybe not, but that doesn't mean I'm going to quit trying." As he worked quickly, his hands were trembling. He found another herb that Naira had mentioned earlier, but it was hard to tell if it would work. He crushed it between his fingers, the scent of it filling the air. He placed the paste over her wound, hoping for a miracle. "Do you think this will work?" Naira's voice was barely above a whisper. I have no idea, Jake admitted. But you're not giving up on me yet. Don't you dare. She gave him a faint, appreciative smile, but it quickly faded as another wave of pain swept over her. Her eyes fluttered closed. You don't get it, do you? I'm not like you. I'm different. Jake paused, feeling a sudden rush of emotion. I don't care what you are, Naira. I'm not leaving you behind. But Naira's body continued to grow weaker, the poison spreading faster than Jake could handle. She gasped for air, clutching at his shirt. You're too late. I'm done. No, Jake growled, I won't let you die on me. Not like this. He pressed harder on the wound, desperate for any sign of improvement. He could hear the faintest pulse beneath his fingers, but it wasn't enough. Naira's body was fading, and Jake was running out of time. And then, just as the last of her breath was leaving her, Jake did something he never thought he'd do. He pulled her closer, pressing his lips to the side of her neck, where the venom had taken its most brutal toll. His mouth brushed against her skin, trying to draw out the poison. It was risky, foolish, and probably not going to work, but it was all he had left. Naira's eyes shot open. What are you doing? She gasped, her voice thick with confusion. I'm saving you, Jake replied, his tone steady despite the chaos in his mind. The moment lingered between them, charged, tense, with a mix of danger and something else. Something neither of them had expected. Will it work? She asked, her voice softer now, almost trusting. Jake didn't answer. He couldn't. He had no idea. But he wasn't going to stop. Not now. Just as he pulled away, Naira's eyes went wide. The venom, it's not gone, she whispered, a strange look on her face. Jake froze. What does that mean? Naira, tell me. But Naira's words were cut off as her body trembled violently. Was it too late for her after all? Naughty question for the comment section. Do you think Jake's kiss really helped save Naira, or is it just the start of something even more dangerous? Jake couldn't breathe. Naira's body was still, her eyes closed, but the color slowly returned to her skin. He had done it. The antidote had worked, he was sure of it, but there was no time to relax. Not yet. Not until she was awake and completely healed. He sat beside her, his fingers lightly brushing her arm, not sure whether to let go or stay right there. Every moment with her had been dangerous. Every second, they had fought for survival, and now, as the silence stretched on, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were at a crossroads. Things were about to change. Naira's eyes fluttered open, a hint of confusion clouding them. She blinked a few times, her sharp features slowly coming into focus as the haze lifted. You, she whispered, her voice rough. You actually did it. Jake's relief was palpable. He could finally breathe again. I told you I wouldn't leave you behind. She looked at him, those alien eyes locking with his, still processing. I didn't think you could. But I guess you humans are good for something. Jake couldn't help but smile, despite the tension still hanging in the air. Good for something, huh? Just wait until I prove what else I can do. Naira's lips twitched into a small, knowing smile. You're stubborn. I'll give you that. You don't like it, he teased, leaning in slightly. I thought stubbornness was a good trait, especially when you're trying to stay alive. Her smile faded, and for a moment, her expression turned serious. You really don't understand, do you? She said quietly. You think you're saving me? You think that's all this is? Jake frowned. I'm not saving you because I think it's some kind of mission. I'm saving you because he stopped himself, unsure if he should finish that thought. Naira watched him carefully, her eyes narrowing. You don't have to lie to me. I know how humans think. You're not the first one to try and save me. Jake's heart sank. He had seen that look before, she was shutting him out. He couldn't blame her. For all he knew, she had dealt with betrayal and disappointment her whole life. Trusting him might have been a mistake in her eyes. I'm not lying, Jake said softly. And I'm not like the others, Naira. I'm not here to just play the hero. I'm here because he trailed off, unsure of the words. What was he really trying to say? That he cared? That he wanted more than just survival? You're human, Naira said, her voice barely a whisper. You're not supposed to get involved with someone like me. Her words hit Jake harder than any enemy he had faced. He stared at her, trying to make sense of the knot in his stomach. Someone like you, he repeated, his voice soft but firm. What does that even mean? Naira sighed, trying to sit up but wincing at the pain. It means I'm not someone you can save. Not someone you can keep. It's just not how it works. Jake stood up, frustration simmering beneath the surface. I'm not trying to keep you, Naira. I'm not some kind of hero in a story. I'm just trying to survive, just like you. And right now, I want you to stop thinking that you're some untouchable alien and see me for who I really am. I'm a guy who's willing to do whatever it takes to keep you alive. She didn't say anything at first, her eyes searching his face as if trying to find something he hadn't said. You still don't get it, she said finally. I'm not just some alien warrior. I'm not just some stranger you pick up on the side of the road. I've got a past, Jake. A past you'll never understand. Jake stared at her, trying to piece together what she meant. I'm not trying to understand your past, Naira. I'm trying to understand you. But you're not making it easy. Her gaze softened, and she looked away, staring off into the distance. Maybe it's easier if you don't understand me. I don't need anyone trying to fix me, human. I've learned to survive on my own. Jake's heart clenched. He knew the words she was saying weren't just about survival, they were about protection. Naira had been hurt. She had been betrayed. She had been forced to fight, and in that fight, she had learned that the only person she could rely on was herself. And that was the hardest thing to break down. I'm not trying to fix you, Naira, he said quietly. I just want to be here with you. Not as some savior, not as some soldier. Just with you. She didn't answer at first, her expression unreadable. And in that moment, Jake realized that his mission was more complicated than he had ever imagined. This wasn't about saving an alien from a snake bite. It was about understanding her, about trying to reach past the walls she had built around herself. I don't need saving, Jake, Naira said finally, her voice stronger now. But maybe I could use a friend. Someone who doesn't expect anything in return. Jake felt a rush of emotion. You got one. And I'll prove it to you. But even as he said the words, a part of him knew that this was just the beginning. That trust, real trust, would take time. And the past, both of theirs, wasn't done haunting them yet. Just as Jake thought he had finally reached Naira, a distant noise echoed through the desert, a low, menacing growl. Naira's face shifted, her eyes going wide with recognition. They're here, she whispered. I thought they wouldn't come for me, not after everything. Jake turned, his pulse quickening. Who's here? But Naira didn't answer. Her hand moved to her side, where a hidden blade was strapped. She looked at him with a warning in her eyes. Naughty question for the comment section. Do you think Naira's walls are starting to come down, or will her past destroy any chance of a real connection with Jake? The growl echoed through the still desert air, sending a chill down Jake's spine. Naira's gaze sharpened as she stood, her body tense and ready for action. It wasn't the kind of threat you brushed off. Jake could feel the weight of the moment, the way the air seemed to crackle with danger. Who's coming for us, Naira? Jake asked, his voice tight, trying to keep the fear out of it. They're not after you, human, she said, her voice low and almost casual. They're after me. Her eyes narrowed, scanning the horizon. I should have known they'd come sooner or later. Jake's confusion deepened. Who are they? Naira didn't answer at first. She reached for her weapon, a sleek, dark blade that shimmered in the dim light. The alien technology in her grip wasn't just for show. She knew how to use it. The kind of warrior who could survive anything, except, maybe, the one thing she feared most, her past catching up to her. You don't need to worry about them, Naira said quietly, her voice shifting from distant to sharp. I've handled worse. Jake didn't believe her. Not this time. You don't need to handle this alone, Naira. You've already been through hell, and you almost died just a few hours ago. Let me help you this time. She turned to face him, her eyes flicking over him with a mixture of wariness and something else, something he couldn't quite place. You're a stubborn human, she said with a hint of a smirk. But maybe that's what I need right now. He blinked, his heart racing for a different reason now. What are you talking about? Listen, Naira said, lowering her blade but not putting it away. This group, they're my old comrades. Former soldiers from my home world. They think I've betrayed them. I never wanted to be part of their war, but it was forced on me. She glanced away for a moment, her voice lowering. I made a choice to leave them, to fight for something else. Now they'll come after me, try to drag me back into their war, and they won't stop until I'm dead. Jake stepped closer to her, ignoring the heat of the desert and the pulse of danger in the air. You don't have to do this alone, Naira. I'm with you. Whatever comes. She gave him a look, her eyes searching his face for something deeper. You don't get it. They don't care about who you are. They only care about what I still am to them. And if you're with me, they'll see you as a target too. Jake didn't care. The thought of her being dragged back into some war, some life she hated, it made his blood boil. I don't care what they think, Naira. I'm not leaving you. For the first time, she looked at him differently. Her hardened exterior softened just a little. There was a flicker in her eyes, a vulnerability that she usually kept hidden. Why? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Why would you risk everything for me? Jake didn't hesitate. Because I believe in you. And because, well, maybe I'm starting to care about you more than I should. There was a long silence between them, thick with unspoken words. Naira stepped closer to him, her gaze dropping to the ground for a moment before meeting his eyes again. You're starting to understand, Jake. But this isn't something that's just going to go away. You can't fix me. You can't save me from this war. Jake reached out, his hand brushing against hers. I'm not trying to fix you, Naira. I just want to be here. With you. Her breath caught in her throat, and for a moment, she seemed lost. Lost in the connection they were forging, something neither of them had expected. Then stay, she whispered. Stay with me. Help me fight. Jake nodded, squeezing her hand. I'll stay. And I'll fight by your side. You don't have to face this alone. She studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then, with a swift motion, she turned and started toward the looming threat in the distance. Then let's end this. As they moved toward the approaching soldiers, Jake could feel the weight of the situation hanging over them. The future was uncertain. But right now, he had Naira by his side, and that was all that mattered. He wasn't going to let her face this alone. But as they walked, a thought crept into his mind, one that made him uneasy. If Naira's past could find her here, in this barren desert, what else was lurking out there in the shadows of her world? And what would they do when the full extent of her past came crashing down on them? The sound of footsteps grew louder, and then, out of the dust and heat, figures emerged. Naira's former comrades, each with the same cold, calculating expressions. They were here, and they didn't look happy. You're coming with us, Naira, one of them shouted, his voice full of authority. No more running. Jake instinctively stepped in front of Naira, his muscles tense, ready for whatever came next. He wasn't going to let them take her. Not without a fight. Naughty question for the comment section. Do you think Jake can protect Naira from her past, or is her former life about to destroy everything they've built together? The dust swirled around them as the figures in the distance drew closer. Jake could feel his pulse quicken. These weren't just any soldiers, these were Naira's old comrades, and they looked like they meant business. His hand instinctively moved to his side, where a makeshift weapon rested against his belt, but the reality of the situation hit him. He wasn't just standing in the middle of a desert anymore. He was in a fight he didn't know if he could win, not without Naira by his side. Naira's body tensed beside him, and for the first time since they had met, Jake saw fear in her eyes. Not just any fear, either. This was fear of her past. Of the very people who had trained her, fought beside her, and who, in her eyes, had become her worst enemies. The lead soldier, a tall figure with dark, battle-worn armor, stopped a few feet in front of them. His voice was cold, commanding. "You're coming with us, Naira. No more games." Jake's stance hardened. He stepped closer to Naira, putting himself between her and the soldiers. "Not a chance. You're not taking her anywhere." The soldier laughed, the sound harsh and mocking. "You really think you can stop us, human? We fought battles your kind couldn't even dream of. You're nothing but a distraction." Jake's grip tightened around his weapon, but before he could speak, Naira's voice stopped him. It was low, almost a growl, laced with bitterness. "You've always thought you could control everything, haven't you? Always assuming you have the upper hand." She stepped forward, her eyes locking onto the leaders. "But not anymore." The soldier's expression flickered for a moment, but then he shook his head. "You were one of us, Naira. You still are. You think you can run away from your duty? You think you can hide with this human? He won't save you, not from this." Jake's jaw clenched. He didn't understand. Naira had just said one of us, but this didn't feel like a team of allies, it felt like a betrayal. Something deep inside of him twisted. He turned to Naira. "What's going on, Naira? What is this? Why are they after you?" Naira didn't immediately answer. Instead, she looked down, her face clouded with regret. She took a deep breath and then finally spoke, her voice quieter now. "They don't understand. They never did. When the war broke out, I was forced to choose, join them and keep fighting in a battle I didn't believe in, or leave and try to make something of my own life. I left." She paused, her eyes searching the ground. "But I knew the price. I knew what would happen." Jake's heart ached as the pieces began to fall into place. Naira wasn't just a soldier, she was someone who had sacrificed everything to stand for something she believed in. But now, it seemed like that sacrifice was catching up with her, and it was dragging him down with it. "And this is what you ran from?" Jake asked quietly, stepping closer to her. "This? You thought you could outrun it?" "I didn't think it would catch me here," she whispered. "But it did. And now I have to face it." The lead soldier smirked, taking a step forward, his arms crossed. "You can't outrun the past, Naira. It always catches up. You think you can hide with this human? You think he's your savior?" Jake's fists clenched. His teeth ground together as he stepped forward. "You don't know a damn thing about me, or about her. You think I'm just some fool who doesn't understand what's at stake here. I'm not leaving her. Not now. Not ever." Naira's eyes flickered with something, a mix of admiration and regret. She stepped forward, her hand resting lightly on Jake's arm. "Jake, this isn't your fight. You don't have to die for me." Jake shook his head. "I'm not dying for you. I'm fighting for you. Big difference." The soldier snorted. "You're a fool. You'll both die for nothing." Then, the sound of blasters charging up echoed in the air. Jake's heart skipped a beat. He glanced around. They were surrounded. More soldiers had emerged from the dust, weapons raised. He couldn't fight them all. He couldn't win this battle alone. Naira, however, wasn't about to back down. With a fierce expression, she pulled out a weapon from behind her, sleek and deadly looking, and aimed it at the leader of the soldiers. "Not if I have anything to say about it," she said, her voice hard and cold. "I've made my choice." The leader's expression hardened, his lips curling into a sneer. Then we'll just have to end this the hard way. Without warning, a blaster shot rang out, echoing across the desert. Jake's vision blurred for a split second as the shot hit its mark. The leader's weapon was aimed directly at Naira, but it wasn't her who fell. It was the man beside her, the one who had been standing with her all along, the one who thought he could protect her. Jake! He collapsed to the ground, his body heavy, his breathing shallow. Naira's face went pale as she turned to him. Jake, she screamed, rushing to his side. His vision swam, but through the pain, he heard her voice again, desperate, pleading. Don't you dare die on me now, Jake. Not like this. But as the world around him began to fade, he knew one thing for sure: he had made the mistake of falling for someone who couldn't be saved. And now, it seemed like he would pay the price. Naughty question for the comment section. Do you think Jake made the right choice standing by Naira, or should he have walked away before it was too late? Jake's vision was blurry, but he could hear Naira's frantic voice cutting through the haze. The sting of the blaster shot still burned in his side, the pain making it almost impossible to breathe. It felt like the world was spinning, and his body was numb, but Naira's presence was the only thing anchoring him to reality. Jake! Naira's voice, desperate and raw, pulled him from the abyss. He tried to open his eyes, but everything felt too heavy. Stay with me, damn it, Naira hissed, her fingers pressed against his wound. I can't do this without you. Not after everything. He could barely hear her words, but something about them, the way she said it, like she meant every word, brought him back. The pain was unbearable, but he focused on her voice, on the warmth of her hand against his skin. He blinked, his eyes finally able to focus on her face. Naira's expression was one of fear, but it was mixed with determination. She wasn't giving up, not on him, not on herself. You'll make it through this, Jake, she whispered, her hand gently brushing his hair back from his forehead. You have to. He wanted to tell her that he couldn't feel anything, that the world was slipping through his fingers, but he couldn't. Instead, he coughed, wincing as the movement made the pain worse. Don't talk, Naira insisted, her voice trembling. Just hold on. We need to get out of here. They'll come for us again if we stay. Jake tried to sit up, but his body wouldn't cooperate. The blaster shot had been deep, and it was clear that the fight wasn't over. He had been foolish to think that he could just stand by her and let her deal with everything. She was right. He was no hero. But he couldn't back down now, not when she needed him more than ever. We can't outrun them, he rasped, barely able to get the words out. There are too many. Naira's eyes burned with determination. Then we fight. Together. She stood up, her legs slightly unsteady, but she didn't hesitate. She looked down at Jake, her lips curling into a small, grim smile. You're not getting rid of me that easily, human. Jake couldn't help but smile back, even though the world felt like it was closing in. I wasn't planning on it. Naira's eyes flickered over the remaining soldiers, her gaze calculating, assessing. There was no time to wait, no time to heal. She moved fast, grabbing a nearby blaster and turning back to Jake. You're not going to die today, Jake, she said with quiet resolve. Not if I can help it. Jake's hand shot out, grabbing her wrist as she moved to leave. Naira, wait. I'm not. Shut up, she interrupted, pulling him upright with surprising strength. We fight now, or we die. I'm not about to let you die on me, not when I just saved you. Before he could protest, she dragged him behind a rock, her eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the enemy. She was right. The soldiers had been ruthless, but they were predictable. They would come again. But this time, they wouldn't catch them off guard. Jake slowly rose to his feet, his legs shaky but steady enough to stand. He had no choice now but to follow Naira. He wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. He was fighting for her, for what they had built in this fleeting moment between life and death. Let's make them regret underestimating us, Jake said, his voice hoarse but full of purpose. Naira gave him a sharp, almost playful smile. I like the way you think, human. They moved together, side by side, preparing for the final battle. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but the fire in their eyes was enough to push them forward. Naira's skill and Jake's determination were a deadly combination, and together they would make their stand. Suddenly, a group of soldiers appeared in front of them, emerging from the dust with weapons raised. Naira wasted no time. She pulled out her blaster, and in one swift motion, she fired, taking down 2 of the soldiers with precision. Jake wasn't far behind, firing his weapon as well, the shots ringing out in the still desert air. For every soldier they took down, another one seemed to appear, but Naira and Jake didn't falter. They fought with everything they had left, pushing themselves beyond their limits. The sweat on their faces mingled with the dust, the air thick with the sounds of combat. Jake's mind was racing, but there was no room for hesitation. He had to trust Naira. She was the one who knew how to survive in this war, and he was the one who would fight beside her. No matter the cost. But then, something unexpected happened. As Jake aimed for another soldier, he heard Naira's voice, low and urgent. "Jake, behind you!" He turned just in time to see another soldier lunging at him, weapon raised. Without thinking, Jake reacted instinctively, his body moving faster than his mind. He dodged the attack, grabbed the soldier by the arm, and slammed him to the ground. The soldier's weapon flew from his hand, and Jake used the opportunity to disarm him. But as Jake stood over the fallen soldier, panting, he saw Naira staring at him, her face pale. "Jake, look out!" It was too late. A sharp pain shot through Jake's side as a blaster shot hit him from behind. He fell to the ground, the world spinning once again. But before his vision faded, he heard Naira's voice, frantic, calling his name. Naughty question for the comment section. Do you think Jake and Naira will survive this fight, or has their past finally caught up with them? The world was spinning, and Jake could barely keep his eyes open. The sharp pain in his side, where the blaster shot had hit, was the only thing anchoring him to reality. He could feel the warmth of his own blood soaking through his shirt, but everything else felt distant, fading into a haze. His body refused to move, and for a moment, he wondered if he was slipping into unconsciousness again. But then, he heard it. "Jake!" Naira's voice, frantic and full of desperation, broke through the fog. She was there. He tried to focus on her, tried to lift his head, but his vision blurred. He felt a hand on his chest, warm, strong, pulling him toward her. "Stay with me, damn it!" Naira's voice was fierce, commanding. "You're not dying on me now, human." He barely registered the words, but her touch, the urgency in her grip, kept him from fading. She couldn't lose him. Not now. Not after everything they'd been through. He could hear the sound of blasters firing in the distance, but it felt like a distant memory. The battle was still going on, but he was no longer sure who was winning. "Jake, don't you dare pass out on me!" Naira growled, her hands working to stop the bleeding, pressing down hard on his side. He blinked slowly, his vision clearing just enough to see her face above him, her eyes wild with determination. Her breath was shaky, but she refused to let the fear show. "I'm not leaving you," Naira said softly, her voice a quiet promise. "Not again." Jake's lips parted, but he couldn't find the strength to speak. The words were there, but they were buried beneath the overwhelming weight of the pain. "You need to hold on, Jake. You've been there for me. Now let me be there for you." A cold, numbing sensation washed over him, but he could still hear her. He could still feel her. The fire in her eyes, the strength in her grip, it was everything he needed. Everything he had come to rely on in this strange, unforgiving world. And then, he heard something else. The sound of footsteps, fast and heavy, drawing closer. A new wave of soldiers was heading toward them, and Naira wasn't finished yet. She wasn't done fighting. Not for Jake, not for herself. She stood, pushing Jake back behind cover, using her body as a shield. Her hand went to her weapon, drawing it in one smooth motion. "Get ready," she warned, her voice low and steady. Jake tried to focus, tried to push through the pain, but his head was swimming. Everything was a blur. He could barely move, barely raise his arm, but he didn't need to. Naira was there, doing what she did best, fighting, surviving. She fired at the incoming soldiers, taking them down one by one with deadly precision. The enemy tried to retaliate, but Naira moved like lightning, quick, calculating, and relentless. Every shot she fired hit its mark, and the soldiers around them fell like dominoes. Jake watched her, his heart swelling with admiration and something more, a connection, an understanding. She wasn't just a warrior. She wasn't just the alien who had saved his life countless times. She was someone who had risked everything, for him, for herself, and now, for both of them. "Stay down," she ordered as more soldiers closed in. Jake, his body still refusing to cooperate, nodded weakly, leaning against the rocky cover. He couldn't help her now, but he trusted her. He had to. In a matter of moments, the battlefield was silent. The last soldier fell, and Naira stood, her chest heaving with the effort, her eyes scanning the area. She turned to Jake, her face hardening with resolve. "We've done it. For now, at least." Jake couldn't help but smile weakly. "You're incredible, Naira." She kneeled beside him, her eyes softening. "Don't say that just yet, human. You're not out of the woods." Jake chuckled weakly, despite the pain. "I'm starting to think I might be the only human you can't kill." Naira smirked, her hand gently cupping his face. "You'd be surprised. But right now, you're not getting away from me. Not yet." There was something in her eyes, something that wasn't just about survival. Something deeper. Jake reached for her hand, squeezing it as best as he could. "Naira." "I?" But she stopped him with a glance. "Not now, Jake. Not yet." For a long moment, they sat in the silence of the desert, the battle finally over. The threat had been neutralized, but Jake knew this wasn't the end. Naira's past wasn't something she could outrun forever, and now, his own life had become tangled with hers. There was no going back. But for now, they were alive. They had won. They had fought. And they had each other. But as the sun set over the desert, casting long shadows across the land, the faint hum of a ship's engines echoed in the distance. They weren't done yet. The war wasn't over. And neither was their fight. Naughty question for the comment section. Will Jake and Naira's connection survive the next battle, or will the ghosts of her past tear them apart?